In the end, a weekend off. How did you use the time, Neil?
I got home slightly earlier to see me wife and kids than I would have done from Yeovil, but no, we the only positive really from it was that we managed to find out on Friday morning prior to training, so that allowed us to work hard on Friday, a lot harder than we would have done normally, and then we was in Saturday and we did a lot of stuff, sort of bigger pitch stuff Saturday, tactical stuff. So we got two good sessions in, and then come back in today, and we haven't got second day recovery today from Saturday's game, so we could focus on adding to Saturday and trying to get a performance that's very good tomorrow.
Because you've had a few of these now, are you just a bit more practiced at it? These kind of sudden postponements for COVID, you kind of know what to do with them now.
I've never watched Soccer Saturday so much in all my life. It's just like you're used to just not having a Saturday off all season. It's relentless, and this time round it's been a bit strange. So it is, and you try not to get too sort of frustrated by it all. It's the world at the moment, and obviously we was going to go and watch Stockport play live, and then their game got called off as well that morning. So it's happening up and down the country.
Well, Stockport have been affected more than most, of course, because they didn't get a single league game through the whole of November, and have only played therefore 9 league matches. It's incredible, isn't it, that in between that they've kept up the sort of form that they have.
Yeah, and credit to them. We know coming back how hard it was to get the group back in the groove, and they've come back. They've had tough games at Yeovil in the Cup, tough games at Bromley, and then on last Tuesday, and they've come through them all, and they've come through them all winning, and credit to them, they've been pretty relentless so far.
And I know you prefer to go on the points per game rather than the league table, which therefore would put them second. And I think many people before the season started were saying Stockport were going to be one of the teams to beat. So perhaps it's no surprise that they are potentially going to be where they are, judging by the points per game.
Yeah, one of the there's not loads of benefits from not being at home with my family during the week, but one of the benefits is I've watched quite a lot of the teams in our league and done a little bit more studying of them, and I've been very impressed with Stockport, very impressed with Torquay with how they've always found ways to keep winning games. And Sutton United, so they're not there by mistake, the teams that are up and around it, and certainly with Stockport I can see why they're favourites, and I can see why they're going to be at the top at the end of the season.
Yeah, John Rooney, of course, is scoring goals. Player they signed this year. I wonder if he's a player that had caught your eye before. He's scored goals for a great many years really, and from midfield.
Yeah, he done great at Barrow last season, and I think Jim at Stockport has recruited really well. He's got a team of men, big, strong, powerful team. They work very hard, and they constantly carry threats. And Rooney's one of them. But it works the way they play. He's got players ahead of him in Bennett and Reed and various different players, and the way they play certainly allows him a chance to get forward and create the sort of things he can. And we've got to be wary of all that tomorrow. It's going to be tough.
Have you got any others back now? We sort of talk about injured players at the end of last week. You've had a few more days. Any more updates on any of them?
Yeah, they're all sort of back. It's just when the right time to put them in. Whether the lack of sort of actual match practice is going to sort of stand against them when it comes to a game like tomorrow, or whether we use Saturday's game to get that into them. So they're all back and in contention. Damien McCrory's sort of back training full time, although we've got to be sort of on and off a little bit with him. Callum Roberts is back on the grass running, but we won't know till later on in the week after and see whether it's still sort of sore and inflamed after each session. So we're just sort of feeling our way with one or two, but it'll be great to sort of get some minutes into them on Saturday if not, and then we would be a bit more confident going into Christmas.
Yeah, and you'd like that to have that bigger squad, I guess, available for once you start having to catch up with your fixtures, really, to kind of make use of it and maybe rotate. Is that what you'd like to do?
Yeah, perhaps, but obviously everyone's got to be informed. We rotated a lot last season when we was on a good run at the end just before lockdown, but it felt like everybody was in the zone, and you just have to kind of watch training and get that feeling. You can't keep chopping and changing if players are trying to find their feet and aren't quite where they need to be. So that's a feeling a manager would get on the training field.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Neil, is Callum not going to be available tomorrow night? Do you think tomorrow night's come too soon? You know,
is that because of his prophecy? I think even Callum now, as he's doing his work, but I think even Callum sort of, maybe you're right, it might be a bit soon. But the plan is to see how he reacts to Monday and Tuesday on the grass, and if he reacts in the right way, then maybe he could dip his toe in Thursday and Friday, and we'll see where we are at the weekend. But there's a long way to go until we get to that point.
Is he back kicking a ball yet, or is he?
He's back doing stuff on the grass, not lashing balls here, there and everywhere and necessarily just joining in training, but he's back doing ball work and change of direction stuff, and it's not so much the time where he's actually on the field, it's the time how it reacts after. So if it keeps getting sore and inflamed after every time, then you have to take a step back. So we'll monitor that over the week.
What about Wes Thomas and people like that? And how difficult are you finding it being able to get these players match minutes? Because I imagine under normal circumstances you'd arrange a friendly or something like that.
Yeah, obviously COVID doesn't help in that thing. And we've tried to get some bigger pitch stuff we did over the weekend to get into the legs of the boys and bring them on further. But obviously, we know tomorrow's going to be a really tough game. So we've got to be mindful of whether one or two of these come back into a game like that as their first game in a number of weeks. But Saturday would give us certainly an option if that wasn't the case to get some minutes into them before Christmas.
And obviously Stockport. I mean, I'm sure you would have done your homework on them. What is their biggest strength?
It's got a good team, of men. It goes without saying with where they are. They've got goals in their team. They, physically a strong team, a strong fit team. They can mix their game up. They can play. They can control games, but they also can get it forward and get at you. They look dangerous from set plays, as most teams in this league do. So there's so many ways a team can hurt you. We've had a good chat this morning about how we go about the game and previous games and stuff and things we need to do better. And we're going to try and attack the game and be as good at us as we can. Whether that's good enough, we'll find out tomorrow night.
I mean, people say this is probably the biggest game in the division this season, given both clubs and how both clubs were both expected to be up there. Would you agree with that?
Probably not at the moment. I'd say Torquay and Stockport would be the sort of two form teams at the moment. I know they played on the first day, but I think them two and Sutton have shown that they're the form teams. We're not, and we're in good form. We've only lost 1 in 6, but I'd say it's a big game. Two big clubs who have got some good players. I'd certainly say, but I've been that impressed with teams like Bromley. I've watched a lot of them, and they look a really strong outfit this season. Solihull play great football. Hartlepool, are a decent team. I know they lost at the weekend, but there's so many teams in there. I think, they look decent, and you just won't know. We all look now, but it will be once you get to that last sort of 10 games that we'll really find out who's got what it takes.
What do you think a win tomorrow night could do for the rest of the season?
I think it. I don't know if it's for the rest of the season because it is only 3 points, but you always want to bounce back from a defeat. 2 defeats, then before you know it, you're 8th in a league like this. You're 8th, 9th, 10th in the league, and you've got to fight to get back in that top 7. Whereas a win might push you up to 3rd or 4th, and you're in it, and you're keeping ticking along and in there. So I think you can egg it on because it's Stockport, and they're a team that are likely to be there or thereabouts. But at the end of the day, it is all about trying to keep in there. And when you do hit a real good vein of form, that might be the difference.
Brilliant, mate. Top man.
Well, hi Neil. Just a few follow-up questions from what the guys have asked, really. Of course, as we said, Stockport tomorrow. Do you think this is the toughest game of the season so far for your side?
I think they're one of the best teams I've seen. I've watched a lot of the teams. Like I say, I've been really impressed with Torquay, Sutton and Stockport. They are one of the best teams I've seen. So up till now, it's the next challenge, but it is going to be a test to see, whether we can handle what they've got and whether we can cause them problems with what we've got. And that's the interesting thing for me as a manager. I'm keen not to try and mess around with things too much and actually say, well, look, let's give the boys a chance to to show what we can do, and if we don't and Stockport are better than us, we'll have to accept that and move on. But now we're starting to have to claw to get back in that top 7 again.
And do you think a win against them would, and like you say, with the emphasis on potentially playing the way that you guys play, do you think a win playing your way would really lay down a marker to the rest of the league?
No, not really, because each game's different. You know, Stockport will probably come at us and have a go at us because I think they're good enough to do that. Some teams might come and make it difficult for us, and it's managing to deal with all the different, you know, challenges we face. Really, and mix the games up well enough to be able to keep picking up results. So for me, it's our last league game before Christmas, and you know, if we can win it, it takes us in, hopefully in the top 7 into our Christmas period, and that's a nice feeling going into them 3 games over Christmas.
Yeah, I was going to say, what does it do to the mentality ahead of that Christmas period with such an intense schedule and intense workload? What does it do to the mentality to be kind of like in the top 7? Say,
yeah, it's always something to look at and cling on to for the players. I don't look at league tables so much, but it certainly it gives that nice feeling that we're amongst it, you know. And you know, somebody said to you, I know Torquay have been incredible with their form and are well clear on points, but if somebody said you're going to be in and amongst it in that sort of top 4 or 5 going into Christmas, then you know you'd be very satisfied, because it's a long season and you need to be in them positions. But obviously lose the game and you know, you could be sort of mid-table and you need to stick another little run together to get back up there.
And just finally, speaking kind of like generically and looking up the tables a bit, of course, there were a number of fans were allowed back in some of the Premier League games yesterday, and we saw that. I think it's fair to say that it had quite an effect on some of the results. Like, for example, the Fulham and Liverpool score. Do you think that the more that kind of like home advantage becomes again, that will continue to trickle down to the National League, and that will play a real factor in the second half of this season?
You hope so. The way things are, though, I know we've got the vaccines and everything is, you know, the cases are still rising a little bit, and you can see that some people are going to go back into higher tiers and stuff. So I do think this is still a sort of, for me, it's going to end up being a sort of 2 or 3 month job to get that real consistency with fans coming back in, because I do think that although we're getting the vaccine and they'll be rolled out, it's going to take a little while to get back to normality.